Hey guys, I'm out of class today, so while I'm gone, this is what I want you to work on. You should have this colored pencil worksheet. You should have colored pencils. Either they are under the smartboard if we're in my room, or if you had to relocate, they should have been brought with you. You just need the worksheet, colored pencils, and then a sharpener. And if you're especially in another room, just be mindful of the shavings. Like try and keep them contained to the desk and then put into the trash can and not on the floor. But this worksheet is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to be working with colored pencil and trying to work through your color theory where you transition from a primary to a tertiary to a secondary. So that's what you have here, red to red purple to purple. And the goal of these transitions is that you're going to really try and see no one seam where they kind of go almost where you can't see at one point where one kind of starts and one stops. That's the big goal of these. So to do that, these actually took me about 7 minutes each to do each one of these. So as you're working on this, it is a lot of slow building. So get comfortable, get into like a little meditative state. And when you're doing like this one, just to show you how to do it, this is the blue to blue, green to green. Just pick two colors. Don't pick colors that look like blue and then blue, green, and then green. Only pick two because you want to show how you transition between them. Just gonna start with one, and just like with the ice cream and the value and the blending, try and really control your pressure. You want to make sure that you're not putting too much down too fast, because if you cover up all the paper, it's going to block new pigment from getting added on. So you'll see I'm going to do a little pass of the blue where I get more pressure at the edge and I kind of lighten up as I go across the square. And then once I have that one laid in, I really want to avoid, see how that's just lines? I really want to avoid that kind of crap. So you want to do even pressure. Try to hold your pencil back here. Try not to do this because this will get you a lot of pressure. Hold it on the end. And it's like little movements that overlap as you move across the page. And these are pretty narrow squares, so try and use like the whole square. So these like use the whole thing. Try and use all of it. So once I have my first pass of blue, then go with the green. Do the opposite over here, where I start with heavy pressure. I'm gonna try and ease up. So like really quickly, there we go. Look at the difference between these two. This one you can still see the paper. It's maybe blended at a decent level, like this is a pretty big jump. But you're gonna do several passes over to get this kind of thick, waxy layer of colored pencil. So you will have red to purple, or red, red, purple, purple, then you'll have blue, blue, green, green. Now for these ones, it says go over the entire box with blender. And this is what a blender is. So it says Prismacolor. Let's see. It should say colorless on it. It has this like kind of neutral wooden shaft, and a lot of them have to get sharpened. So just grab your sharpener, sharpen one, and then I want you guys to practice these. You have like two up here that are just a colored pencil. The blender kind of adds a layer of wax that some kids really like and some kids aren't that into. When you start going over this, you'll see a kind of just, but for these to work, you do kind of need to have a lot of wax and a lot of pigment. So if you have a couple thin layers of colored pencil, it's not going to have a big impact. But there's a lot there to blend, you'll see a big difference. So hopefully in person, it looks more obvious than what you're gonna see on the screen. We're gonna do these two, just regular, no blender, these ones with a blender. This one, you're gonna go from white to a tint to a hue. So that means you'll have the white over here, you'll have the white and the hue. It can be any hue you want. Remember, hue is another word for a color, so any color you want. And then it should end with a hue and should be, again, a seamless transition. You're gonna do that twice, and you're gonna do the same thing then with the shade. So black to a shade, to a hue, really even transition. Okay, so here's an example of what all the bars look like when they're filled in. And just to be clear, when you're doing the white to tint to hue, you're using the white colored pencil. You're not going to use the white of the page. And they should all be waxy. They should all be filled in completely. And if they don't look exactly how you would like, that's fine. It's more important that you're kind of getting a sense of how the colored pencils work, what happens when you layer them, how to build slow layers, and how to try and get even blends, like how to try and keep working at that. And then for these last ones, if you do want to use the blender on top of those just to keep, because you like it, that's also fine. And for this part here, the candy cane exercise, this is where you kind of take applying colored pencil to making actual color theory, where you use colors to give an impression of something being three-dimension. Draw out a basic idea of a candy cane. So I'm not gonna redraw all those little strips because I can kind of see them good enough. And what you're gonna do now is you're going to take your white colored pencil, and this won't probably show up too great in the video, but go down the center of the candy cane shape with some hard pressing white pigment. Cover that whole thing up. And then if you think of a candy cane, the way it has that illusion is that it has a highlight down the middle, that's your white. It transitions pretty quickly from a tint to a hue, and then quickly again from a hue to a shade. So that's all you're gonna do, is on the areas where you have white, or where like there's red stripes, you're going to put in some values here. You're gonna start out pretty light. I'm gonna go over that with the white colored pencil. That kind of actually intensifies it a little bit, but that's fine. It's gonna be a little bit blurry, that's also fine. You kind of add in the pressure. And then you end with a little bit of shading at the edge. And you're just gonna do that for all the stripes that you have. Like every time you have red, you'll just do that. All right, guys, so I actually didn't record accidentally part of this. So you did the red part. For the area where it's white, you wanna make sure like that center highlight should be the whitest end of the page. And you'll see like when you put the white crayon on the page, it's actually, the white page is like brighter than that. So that means you have to take all of this like little white space and then add some hues to it. So you're gonna take like a dark blue, you can take a dark purple, you can take a combination of them. You're gonna kind of run it along the edge. You can go over the red too, like that's also fine. Sometimes it's nice to have blues and purples in your shadows. You can take like a really dark one. And it's gonna try and do a little bit of edging on it and then bring it in like a little bit. If you find a gray, that's fine, but I don't think there's a lot of grays to go around. And then once you have that in there, just to kind of blend it, you can either take the blending tool or the white crayon and blend that out. So that way it would make sure that the brightest part of your page is the center and that all the edges have some color to them. And that's how you're just gonna finish this up. So if you finish this in class, you can turn it into the sub and leave it under the smartboard. If you're in a different room, if you're not in our room and then you didn't finish it during class, you can take it home, bring it in on Monday. But either one is fine.